What's up guys, we are here at the beautiful Stella Mar RV Resort here in Galveston, Texas. And we are on our last morning, but before we leave, I want to show you how to do a simple upgrade in your RV. Alright, so I apologize for the AC noise, but we're in Texas and it's hot, so I'm not going to turn it off. But as you can see, one of these lights is not like the other. That's right, I've already done one of our light bar upgrades. We had the stock tube lights, I guess you can call them, which draw a lot of amps, draw a lot of power, not as bright. And I've already upgraded one of ours to the LED bars. So you can certainly cheap out on your LED upgrades. There's ones where you can convert the ballast to work with LED, but generally what happens with those is they don't last very long because they're not, you know, having that ballast really jacks up the LEDs. So it's really better to go with a unit that you can replace from the wires that's feeding the power to them and get a unit that's actually made to support the LEDs that doesn't have ballast. So we went ahead and went with a company called M4 LED. Now they're certainly not the cheapest that you'll find, but they are some of the highest quality. If you follow another RV channel called RV Geeks, they also support M4 LED, and I kind of bit the bullet and went with them, and on the one that we've installed so far, I'm pretty happy. So without further ado, let me show you how to do another one. So here's the LED bar from M4 LED. It's pretty sleek looking, I should say, and you'll notice right away that it only has 2 wires. If you don't have a lot of experience wiring anything in your RV, just know that you have certain things in your RV that runs off of DC power, which is 12 volts, and you have other things that runs off of AC power, that's 120. So you'll notice that the DC wiring only has 2 wires. Your red wire is your power and your white wire is ground. Now if you have an older RV that uses the typical wiring colors, you're going to find that your white wire is still your ground, but you'll have a black wire, and that's generally your power. But of course confirm this with a voltmeter for your particular rig. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the old fixture down. Now what the right thing to do would be is to go ahead and cut power. That way you limit you being electrocuted. That is the preferred method, and that's what you should do.
That's probably what you should do.
Yeah, but for the making of this video, for you guys, we're going to leave the power on. Now DC power is lethal just like any other power. It's not as bad as AC power, and you know, I've done this several times. I've worked with DC a lot, so I know what I'm doing. But please cut the power to your rig, be safe before you do anything that you're about to see. So as you can see on our old rig, it comes with these tube lights that you generally have to replace a lot during the year. I wouldn't say a lot, maybe once a year, depending on how good they are. These are really inefficient and they get really hot. So not only is replacing this with an LED system going to improve on our power consumption, but it's also going to lessen some of the heat that comes in the rig. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these tubes out. And generally they lock in with these 2 tabs that will slide into a slot. And so it's really all you do is here, let me set this one down. All you do is generally twist them a little bit. There we go.
There it goes.
And then they'll pop right out. Now remember, when you're taking the screws out, you don't need a high-powered drill. All the materials that you're going to be screwing into up here or are already screwed into is like a light plywood type material. And in fact, if you use a high-powered drill, you risk you know, stripping those holes out that already exist. So what I recommend is either using just a normal screwdriver, or like what I have here is called a Tack Life, and I'll link it in the description below, from Amazon. I really like this brand. They don't make all the tools that I would need, but the ones that they do make are really high quality. And it's really just a low power screw gun. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have screws that you'll need to take out in order to drop the light fixture. So if yours is like ours, these are the original light fixtures from when our RV was manufactured around 2005. So when you take the screws out, don't be alarmed if it doesn't just plop down. You'll think that you're missing something. Now make sure you get all the screws out, but remember that this has been sitting here for years, depending on how old your rig is, so it might be stuck. So you'll hear a a little pop off of the original fabric, and that's because, you know, it's melted a little bit. The fabric's attached to it just over the years, so don't be alarmed. All right, so from here, you're gonna need some cutters. It doesn't matter what kind of cutters, just whatever you can use to cut the wires. You're gonna need some wire strippers when you make the new connections after you cut it. And then for me personally, you can either use the twist style where you put the two wires together and you twist them, or you can use what I have here, which are butt connectors that you can crimp. And obviously the best way to do it would be to solder it. So if you have a way to solder this, that would obviously be the best way to do it. So since we have it dangling here, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And of course you want to leave as much wire as you can. That way you don't leaving yourself short later. So, and boom. All right. Old fixture is gone.
Bye.
So you'll notice when I cut it that luckily for us, the color coding is the same. As I mentioned earlier, your red's the power and your white is the ground. Luckily for us, the wiring in our coach matches that, but if you have the older style like our last rig did, remember that white is still going to be the ground. You'll have that white wire, and you might have black hanging down for DC, which is power, and that'll go to your red. So, but for us, it's pretty straightforward. The colors match. As long as you're not colorblind, you can see which one goes to what. So let's go ahead and strip the wire. Alright, there's a little strip there. And one strip there. 2 wires stripped. Alright, so now it's as simple as connecting the wires using the butt connector that I mentioned earlier. Now I don't have anybody helping me hold this. Now would be the time to have a second person. Unfortunately, my wife is holding the camera. So I'm going to use the head and shoulder method, which worked for me on the first go around, and hopefully will work for me here. So let's get these connected. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and start by getting one end on the butt connector and make it easier on yourself. That way you just need to connect the other end. Alright, so now that they're in, I'll use the crimping portion of my wire cutters, or my wire strippers. Come in. I'll start crimping it. Alright. Feels pretty solid. I'm tugging it just a little bit to make sure that it is a good connection. And now I will do the other one. Alright, you can see that I have the connections made, and the last step I'm going to do before I start tucking it all in is add some electric tape to protect it. So using the head and shoulder method again, I will wrap them up. So remember when you're doing the electric tape portion that you want to, on anything electrical, you want to make it tight. This will keep water out and moisture and just give a nice good protection. So what I do is I start it and I hold it and I pull tight with the electric tape as I'm wrapping it. So the electric tape is tightly pulled as I wrap around, and you can see it makes a nice tight connection. So you can see the electric tape isn't loose, and it has a nice solid connection. So one thing I forgot to do earlier and show you was that the import of this particular product comes with the sides on, and they're just screwed on with Phillips. So you will need to take those off. It's a lot easier if you do it ahead of time, whereas like right now I have it already connected and everything, so I'll have to do it while holding it. But just make sure that you take these little side panels off. Alright, so you can see that I have removed these side panels, these little plastic pieces, and it has exposed the mounting holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the original screws that used to hold the old one, these, and I'm going to use those to mount the light fixture. Now it is important to note that you want to make sure that there's nothing electrical, because you will be most likely screwing in new holes up in your ceiling, because they're not going to line up with the old fixture. So without further ado, let's get this up there. My wife actually just came up with a good point. Before you go to the trouble of actually mounting it, it's probably a good idea to make sure it works. So let's do that. All right. Alright, got enough to hold it up there, and I'll put the other two in. So we have the light fixture secured to the ceiling, and the last step would be to reattach the side panels using the screws that held them in. Now remember that if you lose track of which side was which, it's pretty simple. We got the ones that has the light switch on it, so obviously the one for that side is going to have the hole in it, and the other side isn't. We're done. It is secured, the side panels are back on, and it works. Alright guys, like I just showed you, upgrading your RV to LEDs is a really simple process, at least the inside ones are. Just make sure that you get DC lighting if that's what you're going to be replacing, like your ceiling lights, all the wall sconces, that kind of stuff. Make sure that they're DC. Don't do like us. When we first got our first RV, we ordered a bunch of light fixtures that are like just household light fixtures, not realizing that those were for 120, like typical household stuff. And most of the lights in the RV is DC.
I had to order them 3 separate times.
Yes, you did.
3.
But anyways, I hope this video was helpful to you. With a minimal amount of tools, a minimal amount of time, I think if we weren't trying to video this, I could have done it in less than 5 minutes. It's really simple upgrades and well worth it. So, see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye. And I guess if you order enough, you get a little koozie, so we'll add that to the collection.